All praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors unto the apostles of GMS, the true elders of the nation of Israel in the flesh on earth today. Salutations to the Akim that on the four corners of the earth puts in his truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. It's your brother Malcolm from the GMS Chicago Mapataza camp. All right, and I'm going to go into this book that a couple brothers have already gone into called The Negro Question. And I am going to add salt into the wound of truth that has been afflicted upon the nation of Edom. Okay, and so I'm going to start with a couple definitions. All right, definitions you've heard before, but there's still some new watchers and new people, new scoffers watching. So we got to silence and the scoffers, who clearly I do believe don't pay attention to the information in the video. As soon as they hear something they don't like, they just turn it off and they make a dumb comment. Because if they actually observe the information that's presented, they would see that it is all accurate and true. And there's no way, there's no rebuttal, there's no debunking it. The truth is the truth, man. All right, and this truth is tearing down all the lies of the so-called white man. Okay, who got dominion over the earth? How? Let me read the scripture first. He got dominion over the earth by lying. All right. And here's a scripture to help substantiate that. All right. This is Wisdom of Solomon. No, not Wisdom of Solomon, but the book of Sirach 10 and 8. Because of unrighteous dealings and injuries and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And one of the ways of those riches gotten by deceit, all right, and unrighteous dealings is by lying about history. Lying about who's who, because we don't tell the truth about who was indigenous to a land and what belonged to what people, then it's ready acceptable by the rest of the world, to accept what's to come after that. But if the people of the world were aware of the truth, you may not have been as easy to do your wicked, evil dealings. Okay, so let's go into those definitions. Just to prove a point, because all dark people are not the same. So with this book, I'm going to prove that the inhabitants of Africa were dark, the inhabitants of the so-called Middle East were dark, and the inhabitants of Europe were dark as well. Okay, they were dark as well. The only pale-fleshed people, red, pink-fleshed people, was the nation of Edom. All right. You can Google red newborns and see what faces you see. Okay? Genesis 25:25, and the first came out red all over. Can't get around that. Okay? There's only one people that have that look, that come out that way. All right? This is Ham out of the Zondervan's Compact Dictionary Bible. And it says, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites. So it said the dark races, not the Negroes. So the Negroes are not Hamitic. They are not from the line of Ham, so the curse of Canaan had nothing to do with them per se. All right. As a matter of fact, when you learn the truth, you actually learn that the Negroes, along with the rest of their family, were the ones to inflict the curse of Canaan. Canaan lost his land to the Israelites, and that's who the Negroes are. All right. The Negroid races, which is all 12 tribes, the so-called Native Americans, Latinos, and the Negroes. All right. So now we're going to look at Ham in the Young's Dictionary Bible. Okay. Let's break it down. Let me go to Ham. Went too far. There we go. Found it. Says Ham, a son of Noah, and the father of Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. See further on each of these 4. So it means go elsewhere in the book. Each one of them has their own definition. All right. While they all may have been dark-skinned, they were not the forefathers of the Negroid races, plural. all 12 tribes. All right, from Judah all the way down to Issachar on the 12 tribe sign, which is carried by GMS. Even these bootleg camps use the sign which came out of GMS. Okay, it says, but rather the people associated with Egypt in the north continent of Africa. What's the north continent of Africa? Israel. All right, Israel actually sits on a whether you want to like it or admit it or not. Egypt and Israel sit on the same. There's a little break in it, but the same tectonic plate, man. They're still connected, man. It's the land of Egypt. You can walk on foot right to it from Africa, man. Okay, and it says the Egyptians thought of Canaan as one of their provinces in the very late times. That's adding more insult to injury. There was a scientist. I think he was Jewish, or German, but a lot of the German were Jewish. But his name was Dr. Samuel G. Morton in 1844. Right, who did a survey? He did a dig at the pyramids in Egypt, and he found a tomb that had 750 skulls in it. And when upon examination, he learned that those skulls were Negroes, like the ones I just read about, who were dark but not African. It also said in this book, now actually I'm going to put that definition up to the camera. It also said in this book that they were associated with the people in North Africa, the same place where Dr. Samuel G. Morton did his dig, and on those 750 skulls, he's in 1844, he said that these Negroes were in the same position in Egypt as they were at the current time. And in 1844 in America, the Negroes, and in Britain and other places around the world, they were in slavery. So they admitted to you that they were the people in North Africa. So that were in slavery, north of Africa in Israel. Okay, there it is. It says a forefather of the Negroid races. Okay, read it and weep, Edomites, and all you black unconscious people. All right, because black is a very negative word, and it means negative. That's exactly what it means. It means ugly and unattractive. And guess what? The Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans are some of the most attractive people on the planet, man. All right? Hamites, for the most part, are not very attractive. Matter of fact, you heathens aren't that very attractive at all, collectively. All right? We talk about your women all the time. There's two classes of heathen women. They're either really fine, physically, or they're ugly. There's no in between, man. All right? The heathen woman is either very attractive or very not. Simple. Okay? So now that we got those definitions out the way, actually, we can just shut it down right here, man. But no, we're going to pour more salt in that wound. We're going to make it sting. All right? This truth is going to sting you like it is. That's why you want us off the internet, which is destroying you. All right? This is the introduction. All right? And I'm going to start right here where it says absolutism of these United States. Now a new science has emerged that has produced results that are in direct conflict with the history that is being taught in the classrooms. That science is genetics. But what is the issue? This pebble in the shoe of genetics, but pitting genetics against history, because genetics can be modified. And then when you're dealing with genetics and DNA, you also have to remember that Esau is teaching DNA according to his false history, according to Darwinism. That this people came from this people. Esau is not acknowledging the real names of the people on the earth today and the real land masses where they came from. He's not acknowledging migratory patterns that people made in the earlier times. And he would identify your DNA from a landmass. But what about when you go to a landmass and that's not where the people came from originally, but they mixed with the inhabitants thereof? What does your DNA tell you? So DNA is really just gives you a whole mess of nothing, man. All right? This is real simple, man. It's learning history and going by the seed of the Father, man. Okay? That's how you determine who's who, because and on God's green earth, the laws that he set up, that you are who you are according to your Father, man. So if your people have been scattered through the four corners of the earth and mixed with all these other people, how are you going to use DNA? There's no way you're going to do that, man. All right? But you people are spiritual. You want to understand that. Okay, it says the world history is being taught in the classroom. Omit the existence of black Scots, black Irish, black Brits, black Italians, black French, black Europeans. They were sold directly into American slave plantations, and they were. All right, because admitting that would prove that Darwinism is a lie, which is mixed in with Christianity today. Modern day Christianity mixes Darwinism in with their teachings when it comes to Ham, Shem, and Japheth. They blend the two together. All right, which is going to be very, very incorrect because Esau was pale. All right, and he married a bunch of Hamite women, and his children still came out pale. All right, when you fast forward to the time of the Herodians, the Edomites were marrying Israelite women, and some of their children came out dark, like Herods. But they were still Edomites, just because they had. So yes, there are dark-fleshed Edomites, just as there are pale-fleshed Israelites. So it's not about color, man. It's about seed, and that's why the Lord is going to have to sift and pull His people out. That's the whole wheat and the tares, man. That's why I had to separate the wheat from the tares. All right. But anyway, it says the eyewitness, the artifacts. All right, which I use that term a lot. That artifacts are eyewitness to who was who and where they were, or that a people was present at a time, and they may be omitted out of the writings, but the artifacts will prove that they were there. Okay. DNA and the surnames of blacks in America. The great omission has caused the public view of both institutions in a fraudulent and suspect manner. What is the solution to this problem? What is the missing link? The Negro question part 4 is the missing link. Has the answer to make both science come together in a perfect harmonious marriage. Neither of the two sciences possess in the link bringing cohesiveness to their respective fields. The secret lies in the past, in the writings of Professor Boyd Dawkins, in the edict of Oliver Cromwell, and in the artifacts and in the essay of Benjamin Franklin. Their scholars, scientists, and historians are confused. Their institutions have failed them. Their money have failed them. They have been deceived by the Renaissance and by blindness, and has taken hold of them all. They are shining. The shining light hurts their eyes, and they find shelter in the darkness. So no, they find shelter in their lies because they're comfortable in their lies, because the lies place them as being the so-called superior people. Because the Renaissance was clearly about the destruction of the icons. That's where you get iconoclasm from. That's when you have all these images and paintings from the 1600s where they literally painted blonde streaks over woolly textured hair and painted pale skin over dark features. And then you look at the hands and fingers and things of that nature, and they're still dark. Or you see around the edges, you can still see the dark. All right. That's called iconoclasm, man. And they went around knocking the lips and noses off a lot of statues. But some of them, even though they did that, you could still clearly see the Negroid features. That's what they were trying to hide, man. All right. But it was so many. There are so many still all throughout Europe, Germany, Switzerland, Slovenia, so many places that you can't hide it, man. Okay. Sure I didn't read something. All right, so now I'm going to read pages 4 and 5, and the author of this book gives a list of historians that wrote about what they saw. Okay, and this is Professor Winchell Alexander. So I'm giving you the name and I'm giving you the titles of where the source of information came from and the time period. Professor Winchell Alexander, the name of the book was Our Remote Ancestry. He lived from 1815 to 1900. Collection of journals, and this was what was wrote in his book. These short black men came from Atlantis, northern Africa, and they overran Europe. They were known as Britons. All right, he went off a little bit, but what he just did was he admitted that when the so-called white man came into Britain, that it was full of short black men. Okay, which makes sense because when you look at all the images of all the night costumes, they're all short, man. They're all short. I noticed that long time ago and was and now it all makes sense. The Roman historian Tacitus, which I've quoted a bit, the origins of the Black Britons. The Iberians are black people with curly hair. See how curly my hair is? There's no chemicals, man. That's my actual hair. It grows right out my scalp like that. Okay? I put a little grease on it and it curls right up. Bam. All right? It says, the Iberians are black people with curly hair. Anthropological Review, Society, London, Volume 8. So that's where it came from. Joseph Ritson, The Annals of Caledonian Picts and Scots, Volume 2, pages 7 and 27. And it reads, the Picts, Brits are brown complexion with curly hair. All right. Ivan Van Sertima. All right. Now he was a Jake. The African presence in early Europe, page 225. The Britons look like Ethiopians. Let's get a scripture. He said the Britons look like Ethiopians. Let's see what the Lord said in his word. Okay. This is Amos, the 9th chapter. I'm in Hosea, Salakia. Hate to be in Amos. 9 and 7. Are ye not as the children of Ethiopia unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines, and from Captor, and from the Syrians, and Ker? So he made a comparison. The visage of the Israelites were like that of the Ethiopians. Let me get it. I said visage. That made me think of one of my favorite scriptures that I often get. Lamentations 4 and 8, man. It says, and this is referring to the tribe of Judah, man. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right? Which was the kingdom of the Judeans. They made up 3 tribes. Their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. See? And then that was a future prophecy. Because they were scattered and their heritage was taken from them, they're not known in the streets, man. That particular part of the family, man. The black side of the so-called fat side of the family. Their skin cleaved to their bones. It is withered. It has become like a stick because they were starving to death. And when you understand, when you're starving to death, your skin actually gets darker. If you're dark, you really get dark. Okay? That's one of the traits of starvation. Okay? Back into the book. Albert Churchwood, 1912. The Origin and Evolutions, pages 12 and 13. The Black Basque were exterminated from Europe. All right, so let's look up that word Basque, because I didn't know what that was. So I had to go and look that one up. All right, let's find out what it was. Proves another point. All right. Look that word Basque up. And I'm using the Winston Simplified Dictionary, Encyclopedic Edition, with biblical references, 1933. Okay? Which I'll show it to you as soon as I find it. B-A-S-Q-U-E. Too far. There it is. You know what? I have a highlighter. Highlight it. There we go. Knock the camera down. Make it easy to see. Okay. Okay. It says, the native of Basque, the native of Vasconia, one of the people of peculiar racial and linguistics living in Western Pyrenees, their language pertaining to the Basque of their language. Okay? So, that was these Basque were people who one of the words for Basque too was Etruscan. When you looked it up in the when I looked it up in the online dictionary, what do we call it, the Oxford online dictionary, what popped up was Etruscan. So that proves when I always say that the Europeans were a dark fleshed people. All right, the sons of Javan. And matter of fact, let me get a scripture. This is because the Etruscans were a maritime people. They were always selling. That's why there were so many pictures of boats. And the tribe of Dan used to get down with them. All right, because that's how they in Denmark and all those places. Those Vikings were not blind, blue-eyed men. They were great, big old so-called black men with big woolly afros, man. Maybe some of them had curly hair, you know. Springy curly hair. All right, but that's Ezekiel 27. Let me go to the book of Ezekiel. I believe it's Ezekiel. Yeah, and in my Bible it says Judah and Israel were merchants. All right, they started dealing with merchants. Did what? They traveled on the sea, back and forth on boats. Judah in the land of Israel, they were merchants and they traded in the market. I'm gonna just jump down to verse 19. Dan also and Yawan, son of Japhet, going to and fro, occupied in their fairs, brought bright iron, cassia, calmanus were in the market. All right. So it says right in verse 20, Dan was thy merchant and procured precise clothes of chariots. So Dan was on and off those ships, intermingling, more than likely mixing with Javan, proving that point. So like when on past videos when I showed you the images of the movie Troy, and how the artwork, the eyewitness. The artifacts of Memnon shows that the Trojans were a dark race people, but yet when portrayed by Esau, they're always portrayed as pale-faced Edomites because that's that white superiority, so-called, and that Darwinism, because they're trying to say Europe was the home of the nation of Edom or white people, and it's not. The Edomites were just south of Israel, came from the Middle East, man, and that pale flesh is a curse. So where you live has nothing to do with the color of your skin, man. All right, that's a lie, man. That's a doctrine of man. Okay, you got what do you call them, Eskimos that live, up in Alaska where 6 months out of the year there's no sun, man, and it's still dark, way darker than me, a lot of them. All right, and I got a tan right now. I'm a lot lighter than what I really am, man. This is from the sun, from being out in the sun. Especially on Saturday, standing out in that sun when we're teaching, man. All right. Let's see. Let's go to the next one because somebody just got cut and they mad, but oh well. This is Professor Boyd Dawkins, our earliest ancestors' bygone days, a lecture delivered in a public hall, Collyhurst, Manchester, 1/8/1879, and this is what he said. The ancient Britons, Irish, Scots are short black people. Pages 103 and 107. Can't get around it, man. All right. Dr. Thurnham, The Nature of the Journal of Science, page 92. From the evidence at hand, it seems that the Iberian black man occupied the whole Western Europe at one time. Cut. Professor Huxley, 1870, The Iberian Race, page 32. The Iberian Basque bones have been found all over Europe with his animals. So it's just like the bones that were found by Dr. Samuel G. Morton, man. He found, and he said that the bones that he found were those of Negroes in 1844 under the pyramids in 1844 under the pyramids he found over there in the land of Egypt, okay, in northern of Africa, and then the Zondervan's Dictionary Bible, it said that the Negroes were associated with the north of Africa in the land of Canaan. Man. Okay. Let me read this part now. I have inserted the writings of 8 English white Edomite historians to show you that so he gave you, these are all these different, except Ivan Van Sertima. I'm pretty sure Ivan Van Sertima was not white, but I could be wrong. All right, but nevertheless, he just give you these all. I just read them all. Okay, who were closer to the epic center, didn't have a problem telling the truth about the original inhabitants of Europe. These Welshmen, Britain, Irishmen, Frenchmen, Russians, German, Italian, Swedes were in Europe thousands of years before the English arrived. All right, and this will be proven by writings of Professor Boyd Dawkins, Professor of Geology at Manchester University, London. All right. Professor Boyd Dawkins was invited to speak in a public hall in Manchester, London, January 18th, 1879. Okay? He gives a detailed account of the people who originally inhabited Europe without blushing. This is what he said. Professor G. Hawkins, Professor of Geology, Manchester, Europe, London, 1879. Our remote ancestry, all right, pages 95 to 106. All right, the origin of of Britain, France, Spain, and England were short black men about 5'6" in height. They were in England when our forefathers, white Englishmen, invaded the land in 449 A.D. Our fathers were a warlike people who by 1607 had pushed the Basque west into Wales, Cumberland. So they were referring to them as Europeans, Europeans. The original Europeans were Yawan, but these weren't Japhet's sons. These Basques were Israelites. Okay. These black people boasted that they were citizens of the Roman Empire. The Welsh or ancient Britons were in possession before the Romans ever came here. These black box Britons have brought the knowledge of iron and bronze with them. The iron and bronze terminate, and that will prove also in all those small body armors and all those suits, those night suits, man. All right, they were made up of iron. The iron and bronze technology will be proven perfectly when I show you the German tapestry. These people were herdsmen. They were herdsmen. They possessed short horned ox, horned sheep, goats, pigs, and the horse. Evidence of their civilization can be seen all over the continent of Europe. Just like there's a video called the Moors. Rise of the Moors, all right, in ancient Europe or something to that effect. Stumbled across that video. It's probably got about 35,000 hits, and all it's showing you is statues of Moors dating all the way back to like the 4th, 5th century, all the way up until the 13th, 14th century, man. And the racial comments that you hear on that, they just want to ignore facts, man. You have especially that statue of Saint Maurice, 12th century Germany, man. Especially that one, but there's so many more. All right, so the truth is out now, man, and another reason to protect. The reason why they protect this lie so badly is because the so-called white man, who was Esau Edom, wanted to hide that. He never wanted the world to know that, man. All right, they'll tell you when you bring up the Edomite question, they'll say that Edom was killed in the Roman Jewish wars. No, they are the Edomites. Romans were Edom as well. Okay. These black people originated from Iberian. Iberians are also where you get the name Eber. That's where Hebrew comes from. All right. From the Iberian Peninsula, and are a fragment of the old Spanish population. They were in France, Spain, Ireland, Britain, and Scotland. One of the techniques that I like to employ when detailing my search was to get close to the point, even in this case. Professor Boyd was right. He mentioned seeing the specimen of the black boss from the different parts of Europe, states that if you laid them next to each other, you would not be able to tell one corpse from another because they were the same people, man. And you got to remember, Esau was driven out of that land because, Alexander had conquered all that. So Edom was in there, had it for a while. But there's always been this back and forth battle between the Israelites and the Edomites, man. They're the main characters in the Bible. And so you go to the book of Job, I think the 30th chapter, it tells you about when Esau got driven forth from among men. So let's read that real quick. All right. Yeah, this is Job 30. I'm going to read verses 1 through 9 quickly. All right. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision. All right. Whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. He said he wouldn't. All right. So the reason he said younger is because the so-called white man came out of the so-called black man. That's why he said that. Their race was younger in that. Because through Esau was the so-called white race came to be. All right. And everyone else on the planet was brown. Different races of brown people. Not all the same. Okay. And he wouldn't set them with his dogs because they'll have sex with them or eat them or something. All right. Because they do things like that. Yeah. Whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, because they ran them out after Rome went down, and they drove the so-called white people into those Caucasus Mountain. That's where that whole Caucasian mess comes from. Caucasian means cave dweller, and they're the only people that ever dwell in caves. They try to hide that fact. That's why they try to tell you that was 10,000 years ago or whatever, or 100,000 years ago. No, that was barely 1,000 years ago. You start coming down out of them caves. And the ones of you that didn't live in the caves were in positions of servitude. Okay? They dwelt in the cliffs and the valleys, in the caves of the earth and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. It sounded like donkeys. All that noise they were making. Just watch the movie Quest for Fire, man. All right? So that wasn't 100,000 years ago. That was during this time period, man. That was basically in the Dark Ages. Okay? Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. And now I am their song. Yeah, I am their byword, like nigger, spick, timber nigger, coon, beaner, savage, Indian, because that's what Indian means. It means savage, man. Okay? About done here. Let me get Psalms 64 and 8 and Psalms 60, and we'll finish this. All right, wrap this up. This is Psalms 64 and 8. So that they should make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away, man. And people are starting to get away from the so-called white man because they know that you're liars, man. You make promises, and all you do is you enslave people, and now you enslave them financially, man. All right? You take their resources, and you tax them, and you take their lands, and that's just what you do. And you take them by violence, man. All right? You'll send armies and drop bombs or whatever. All right? Now I'm going to go to Isaiah 60, and I'm going to read verses 1 and 2 and finish this out. Because it's probably going to be a part 2, 3, maybe even a 4, man. Because my intention is to go through this whole book until the Spirit sends me somewhere else. But this is Isaiah 60, and verse 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the light is risen upon thee. All right, the truth is being revealed, man. All right, you know, it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee, man. So the Lord is bringing a light to the world, man, through the Israelites, man. Just like when you go to Isaiah 25:7, it says something about that veil being removed, over that covering cast over all people, man. You covered up who the people are. So this very key, this information, this type of information has been omitted from learning. Why? Because it didn't benefit the power structure, the government that is in place, or the people that are in power and that control all the wealth, man, that own all the houses and the banks and the land. This didn't benefit them, so they held it back. So with that, I hope that brothers was edified. And until, you know, the next edition of this, Shalom.